What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Tro Bro Dude. And before we get into anything else, I want to talk to you about our sponsor from Underdog Fantasy. And this is the last week. You have until Thursday to sign up for our slop season contest to win up to $500 on Underdog Fantasy. Use our promo code SLOP, that's S-L-O-P, to get a $100 deposit match when you sign up for Underdog. And when you're on there, you can use the link that is in the description to guess where your favorite players are going to end up going this trade season. I removed a few today because obviously Miles Turner and Jae Crowder are pretty much off the block in terms of trades, so I removed them today. I added some new people like OG Anunoby and Josh Hart to make up for that. So link is in the description. Guess there, and whoever guesses the most right will win $500 in that slop cash. And then in addition to that, Birds are in the Super Bowl. We got Pick'em on there. You can do fantasy drafts for the Super Bowl as well. I just won for the second straight week in our YKB fantasy draft. Let's go. Absolutely rigging it from the inside so I can win over and take the Hogs money. But in all seriousness, sign up for that. Link is in the description. And then we will get into some actual slop talk now. So, Sam, we've had probably the 5 busiest days in the NBA season since we last talked. There's been a lot of shit that's happened.
This is like very funny to me, like that you are getting like your monkey's paw, like finger curling, like I'd do anything for the Birds to be in the Super Bowl, and it's just now it's going to be the wind up to slop season.
Yes.
Yeah, slop fest. It's going to be all over your mind, and just as some of the slop is heating up, we've gotten some lukewarm slop.
That's right.
After
we're getting into it.
A slopless things. We've got new names: Bones Hyland, Josh Hart, whoever else, Jae Crowder.
Again, from reheated slop.
Will Nihilus Bucks get away with it? Not if I have anything to say about it. I refuse to allow Jae Crowder to go to the Bucks.
Well, it seems.
I was telling Trill off air that I'm going to fake the medicals. Like this is going to be like Ethan Hunt in like Mission Impossible, and me breaking into the Bucks thing and just saying Jordan Nwora's like bones are made of dust, and just to get the trade nullified here. It can't end like this. It can't go down like this.
Unfortunately, George Hill will not be able to be included in this deal as he has been diagnosed with imposter syndrome. The most serious.
Reddick explained it to him on the podcast.
That's why he missed those free throws in the Cavs finals game. It's the Warriors. He obtained it. We little did we know that George Hill would have imposter syndrome. But so we got real firm slop, folks. It is reheated because it is. We've kind of already hinted at this on the podcast the past few weeks based on information that we had from Nihilus Bucks and also just kind of the tea leaves we were reading from the Suns organization not being able to get anything good back for Jae Crowder, and also the fact that he wants an extension. He wants to play for a contender. It was going to be hard for them to find a deal that works for both sides. And right now it sounds like Shams said that the Bucks are allowing Jae Crowder to meet with them, or the Suns are allowing the Bucks to meet with Jae Crowder, potentially to talk extension talks prior to this trade deadline. And the trade right now looks something like George Hill, Serga Ibaka, Jordan Nwora, and some second round picks. So basically, the slop is a bunch of slop. It is the poo-poo platter, as Nihilus Bucks has been saying, our Bill Simmons favorite. Basically nothing of value, no real solid rotation players to get a guy like Jae Crowder, who, look, he hasn't played in almost a year. Last time we saw him, it did look like he was starting to lose a step towards the end of the season. But at the end of the day, he's way more valuable, especially for what the Bucks need, than any of those players. So, do you think that this is like, it sounds like this deal's kind of finalized and they're just working on the details and then it will happen sometime in the next week or two? Or do you think that the Suns were the ones that leaked this to try to maybe get say, hey, look, this is how low the bar is right now?
So I would say in a normal organization with average organizational competence, like it's obvious that it would be leaked to drive up the price because this is what you do when you're like, hey, look, we're really going to give him away for Jordan Nwora and second round picks and filler. Like
exactly.
Anyone could top, literally anyone could top this, like, do you really want to do this? And like maybe try to get like Shake Milton from you guys or whatever.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Something like that. Like, but the other side of the coin is this is not a normal organization. This is an organization with an owner on the way out. I think I saw the new guy officially takes control like the week after next.
Yeah, but it's going to be before the trade deadline, so he can technically approve any deal once he takes over, but it will probably be the week of the trade deadline.
Right. So I'm assuming, because Sarver is obviously not going to allow cash back, and I think this is one of the only ways that he would do that. I could also, Robert Sarver is absolutely a petty enough shithead to like ram giving away a rotation player and getting nothing back on his way out the door as like one final fuck you to the fans. Like,
yeah,
like I that's like not even really a joke. Like I honestly think that there might be like some sort, like I think there is some sort of Robert Sarver, like fuck all of you, like aspect to some of this. The truth is I don't really know. I hope, again, it's James Jones. I don't know, like he's had some great moves, but I also stuff like admitting that you don't draft
not great.
Kind of makes me reconsider what caliber of executive you are. So I don't know. I could see this going either way. I mean, if I were a Suns fan, I would be on
the live watch.
Yeah, I would be giving my gun locker number to like people who like I trust, basically. Like just if this is honestly what we're getting back, just giving up it is very funny because like the Suns listed what was they wanted 2 of 3 things. They wanted a first round pick, a rotation player, or a young prospect. So is the argument here going to be that they got their rotation player in Serga Ibaka and their prospect in Jordan Nwora? Is that what they're thinking here?
That's tough. And then the second round picks that most likely will all be bad second round picks are equivalent to a first round pick. You really didn't get anything here that is even close to that in terms of value. Nwora is one of the worst players in the NBA.
Yeah.
George Hill is on his last legs. Ibaka hasn't really played at all this season. Like, there's no way you can spin this positively. Although the only thing that could possibly come from this is it seems like anytime they throw a center in there, anytime that they throw some random young guy in there who like maybe didn't really figure it out with his last organization, they've had some success because of the Monty Williams system with the movement shooting and you have Chris Paul and Devin Booker for good offensive infrastructure and whatever. But I would just like, I don't. Yeah, Will says in the comments, I think I'd rather just have Korkmaz than the Bucks package.
Like, I would. He's like at least he's like a catch and shoot guy and a little bit of movement. Like why not? All those other guys are literal zeros.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing else. Those second round picks you could just buy for cash. Like at the draft, straight up. Like I don't know. It's not a good deal. It's not good value for a rotation player. I mean, we've made the argument over and over again that like it's hard to make a Jae Crowder deal work for the money and get less money back. Like that's always been one of the big things holding it up. But here's the other thing: is now there's an end date on when this new guy takes over. So that might be less of a problem later on down the line. You know what I'm saying? Like, might as well tough it out until Sarver's gone, and then
that's probably what they're going to do. They'll probably still wait until the week of. But like, if you're Miami, you're not just going to be like, "Look, we'll give you Dwayne Dedmon, Gabe Vincent,"
I would,
or Max Strus if you don't want to keep Max Strus. Like, there's no way to me that there isn't a better offer out there. It really, what it probably comes down to is that the Bucks are the only team, because they're in such a win now mode right now with Giannis in his prime, with Drew, Middleton, and Brooke all in their 30s, that they're the one team that can say, fuck it. If we get him for pennies on the dollar, We don't care about extending him because our window is this year, next year, and possibly the following year. So it's very similar to what the Sixers did with the PJ Tucker situation, where like that third year is almost definitely going to be a disaster for the PJ Tucker deal. But what do you really have to lose if you're the Sixers? This year and next year is your window. So you can't really be fucking around with, getting guys and hoping that you might get someone better at a later date or whatever. So the Crowder situation makes sense a lot from the Bucks perspective. This would be a fucking home run if he's even if he was 70% of what he was last year, 80% of what he was. He's going to be a good defender. He's going to do all the annoying Jae Crowder things, like shoot 45% in the Eastern Conference Finals or some shit. And he is one of those fourth, fifth starter guys that can kind of swing a series depending on how the shot is falling. So he would be a huge, huge win for the Bucks. Really tough beyond like the Suns and everything that's happened with them over the last year, getting blown out in the Western Conference Finals Game 7, Chris Paul losing half a step, a full step. Let's be honest. He's lost a lot. Ayton getting the max and then underperforming this year. And now you have the Crowder situation. I just want to add another thing on top of that. They're hosting the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, and the Eagles' best defensive player on that team is Hassan Reddick, who they drafted in the top 15 in that draft. He was not good for them for the first 3 years of his career, had his breakout year in his contract year, and left the team, and now he's going back there as the best defender on a team that's in the Super Bowl. Just a really, really tough time to be a Phoenix sports fan right now. Like all these things happening at once is just incredibly, incredibly tough. And you truly hate to see it.
No, it's a rough one, man. I mean, like, honestly, like right off the top of my head, like Korkmaz, Daniel House, and the Hornets pick is like a way better package to me than anything. Like
the Hornets pick just by itself is a better package.
Yeah.
But once again, that's a kind of deal that the Suns aren't going to sign off on until they can get the owner out of there, because House and Korkmaz both make money next year. Yeah. So he's going to say no. And because of that, but generally speaking, I at least think House can be a fringe rotation wing for you, even though I don't think House is particularly good. He can be a fringe rotation wing for you. The Hornets pick is going to have value. And then Korkmaz might be able to also be like a 9th, 10th man who, look, all of the former Sixers that end up going there end up having at least a little bit of success, especially with Monty loving movement shooters. And the fact that Korkmaz in that system, he can create a little bit. Like, I'm not saying that any of those guys are good value, but I definitely think they at least have a shot to contribute over the next year or two, more so than whatever the Bucks are sending. And yeah, I mean, maybe the Bucks have some good seconds. If anyone wants to look into that and tell me, maybe they have a Hornets kind of second, I would be interested to see that. I don't think they
this, and I don't think they do. I think
that's why I'm so shocked by that, because those picks are going to be like 50 and later if Giannis is still there. So like, what do you send? Is it the Nikola Mirotic deal that they did a few years ago where they sent 4 seconds to New Orleans for Nikola Mirotic? Like,
okay. So they have the second round picks they are receiving are a draft pick from Cleveland or Golden State, and it's the less favorable of those. So the worst pick of those ones. They have Portland's 2024 pick, which could be like okay, but like
that's probably involved in the deal, I would imagine. Yeah.
And then Indiana's 2025 second round pick, which
they're going to be good.
Both of those are going to be like middle to at best like 40 to 38 or something. Like
usually they'll be in that range where you can buy it.
Yeah, it's like not nothing, but like you could probably buy that pick versus like a Hornets pick is going to be like 31 or 30, and you can like it's basically probably almost as good as the Bucks actual first round picks. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I just think I also wonder about Crowder. Like what has he been doing? Like he hasn't been playing. Like what kind of shape is he in? Like,
it's funny because I went on a podcast like 2 weeks ago and we talked about this when he was like a potential Sixers target. And I was like, that is something that I worry about for sure. But also like, what is Jae Crowder's, like, what does he do? Like he kind of just stands above the break, chucks threes, keeps the ball movement. He's not like a on-ball guy. He doesn't like hustle and rebound a ton. He's going to have to be in shape for defense, but like how many minutes a game are the Bucks really going to need him? And the bigger question for me here is, does this mean that Bobby Portis is going to get traded in the next 2 weeks as well? Because having Crowder, Middleton, like, you know, I know Middleton can play the 2 or the 3, but, you know, Crowder is a 3 or a 4. Giannis is playing that 4 or 5. Brook Lopez, 4, or I should say a 5. It kind of makes it so that Bobby Portis feels like he would be the odd man out here of the rotation. And, you know, look, it doesn't hurt to have depth, but a guy that's making what, $16 million a year or whatever he's making and could potentially have some trade value. That's the guy that I would keep the eye on for if maybe they're just trying to look for a cheaper alternative to Bobby and they can get a guy who can play that 3-4 as opposed to a guy who's more of a 4-5 in Bobby Portis. So that's the really interesting thing to me is to see whether a team tries to get Bobby Portis and whether the Bucks try to use that to make another upgrade at maybe a position that they're weak at.
But here's the thing: is the Bucks run into the same problem the Sixers have. Like I listened to your pod last week with Brian and I'm blanking on his name right now. Jason, yeah. And you guys parsed this out that like wings, you guys like ran through the list. It's like hard to get wings. Like you kind of end up making the decision: do we need like a big guard, or do you get like a guy like Jae Crowder who's like pretty cleanly a 4, but you try and make him play 3? You know, like
Tobias is doing that right now too.
Yeah, and it's just like it's just hard to like even a guy like Bobby Portis who could like, you know, I think it's easier to make the case that he's like a more, you know, there's more value there. You know, he's $60 million. He could be money in like other moves later on down the line. Like it's there's some different options there. I don't think they're going to be able to trade Bobby Portis for like what they need. You know, like I just don't think they're going to find that wing guy that they need. You know,
I think they would have to include either that far out first that they have in like 2029, or they're going to have to include Beauchamp, who I think that part of the reason why you're getting Crowder is because you don't think Beauchamp is ready to play. Now, they don't play the same exact position, but Beauchamp's more of a 2-3. But like you're basically getting him hoping that Beauchamp can grow into that over the next few years and then take over that position from there.
Yeah. But I guess the other thing though is it's like you can't. I don't think you're going to outbid anyone because my point is the other teams are like looking for these guys. Like every team is looking for these guys. Like you're going to have to beat the, you know, whatever the Sixers are, you know, have for a package, which, you know, might not be great, but like you guys have some real players like Shake Milton, I think could have like real value with like some teams. I don't know. I just don't really see the Bucks being able to like get that win, which is again why Chris Middleton's injury looms so large because he plays such a valuable position. There's just not a lot of 2-3 guys who can play that well, and especially if it's like an all-star like Middleton.
Yeah, and he has been, since he's been back recently and now he's finally gotten some run and gotten into rhythm, he's been awesome and they've looked way better. Now they've played some bottom feeder teams. They played the Pacers without Halliburton. They played the Hospital Pelicans. Like they're not necessarily playing these teams that are like stacked right now, but they have looked way, way better since Middleton's been normal. And I would be afraid of the Bucks, especially if they get Crowder for nothing, basically. Like we were talking about them giving up Grayson Allen, and we were like, you know, I'm not like the biggest Grayson Allen guy, but he's like a solid rotation shooter. You know, who can play in most matchups, probably can't play in a Celtics series as we've gone over, but now it will give them options, especially if they're able to flip Portis for any sort of value. Then I'm interested to see if they are able to pull that off. Because I still think that they're probably like, I've never been a big Bobby Portis guy. I think that he is a perfect situation of a guy being in the perfect context. One of the only places that you can be a 4-5 that is not a good defender is when you play with Giannis. And most teams just would not be able to pull off what the Bucks have been able to pull off. But he still could have some fans around the league. Like he's had big playoff moments with them. He's had, you know, he's in the 6th man of the year conversation. Like I think it's possible that he could have fans. And even if it's like maybe it's like a talent downgrade or whatever, or people might perceive it as that. It might just make them a little bit deeper and a little bit scarier when we get to the playoffs. And that's what I really do fear. As far as the one thing I've thought about the Bucks for a while now is I just don't think that they have enough rotation players. And now it's like, okay, well, if you add Crowder to the mix, that's one more rotation player, potentially, if he's the same guy. And then if you either keep Portis or you get one or two more rotation players for Portis, then that is where the Bucks start to look a little bit scarier, because I feel like outside of the Celtics, maybe you could maybe make the argument for the Nets. There's not a ton of teams that have like 8 rotation players that you can trust come playoff time. So it just feels like that would really give them a leg up, where that's really where they have struggled. So, all right. As far as the Jae Crowder situation goes, I'm glad that this is finally almost fucking over, because we spent a goddamn year talking about this, and it's just not nearly enough for like the 95th best player in basketball to kind of talk about him like this. Like, he's a good player, but like, it's just been way, way too much to talk about Jae Crowder for this fucking long. So, let's get into the other rumor that popped up, which was something that we've actually been hearing for a little bit behind the scenes. I was surprised to see it come out before the trade deadline, which is basically that Denver is looking to move on from Bones Hyland, who Shams reported on this. Last week, we got a report that teams from Jake Fisher, he also threw this out there. And then we also got confirmation from Mike Singer, who is a local Denver reporter, that they are looking for a first-round pick right now for Bones Hyland. Now, that's what they think they can get for Bones Hyland. Like, that's what they think his value is. I think that's what they're putting out there, that they think they can get a first-round pick for him. Obviously, I would imagine you would also want to get a player back. You're the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. You are, in my opinion, the favorites in the West. I think that very easily they could come out of the West if, Golden State either doesn't get its shit together, or the Pelicans or the Grizzlies can't get healthy or right by the playoffs. I think that Denver's very clearly number 1 if that is the case. And it would be a very, very weird move. And I know that Bones has struggled a lot, and I got a lot of people saying this, especially analytics people, who are saying, like, Bones has been really, really bad on defense, and he has been. And his on-off numbers are terrible. He does play a lot of minutes without Jokic and some of their better players, to my knowledge. But I just want to say that being in first place, having a guy in his second year who, for a late first-round pick, was a huge home run for you, there has to be more to this story than just, we want to upgrade the position right now. Because for a franchise that is always worried about going into the tax, you have a cost-controlled guy for 2 more years. Mm-hmm. And then you also have a guy who's been, I know that he's probably one of the worst defenders in the NBA, which I guess all of this kind of begs the question, is this Denver looking at it from, we're trying to sell high on a guy that we don't believe in? Or is this just a way of them kind of throwing it out there to maybe get an upgrade on the wing or at guard that can help them win the title this year? And they don't think that Bones could do that because he can't play big minutes with Jokic.
I mean, it's hard to see it as any other way, because then they just don't believe in him, because it doesn't seem like, as you astutely point out, like Denver has been kind of not the highest spenders right now. And Bones Hyland, they need a guy like Bones Hyland, like, really bad to like make their team kind of work. And this is exactly what you look for, is a guy who can kind of be a rotation player for you off the bench. Now, the argument you'd make is he's a 40% shooter who can't defend. That's a pretty easy upgrade to make, especially when, before some of the shine has kind of come off, right? Maybe they're trying to get ahead of it. The Denver number of people have like looked at Bones, and it's like, this is not going to go well. We gotta like get something before like he turns back into a pumpkin here, because like it's not going to, go well, which I think is believable, but I think it just means that they just don't believe in him one way or the other, whether that's off the court stuff or with what they're seeing in the advanced numbers and what he is. Because just in terms of like his role and what the way Denver does business, it would seem like he would be a very important part of their team.
Yeah. That's kind of how I look at it too, where it's like, I guess my thought process on this is, I could understand if there was a guy out there that they really liked. Like if they got the first round pick, that does give them more pick flexibility in terms of, like Will has thrown out there a few times, basically this idea behind like, what if they sent him to the Magic and they got back their 2025 pick that they sent in the Aaron Gordon trade. And then that gives them a little bit more pick flexibility moving forward with some picks that they can move since they get their own pick back. So that kind of thing might make some sense to me. But I do think that if you're getting back a pick, you have to flip that pick almost immediately, because you can't really sell to the fans, to Jokic, to Murray, to the guys who know that they can win a title or at least get to the finals this year, that you're just getting rid of one of the better young players on the team because he hasn't developed and contributed at the rate that you thought he would after last year. Like it seems like, I know that they were kind of feeling out the market as far back as last offseason. I know that they were throwing Bones' name out there as a guy who could be available, but I think that they were hoping to get back an impact wing or guard that could really help. There are two trades that I have in mind that if they are able to acquire a first round pick, or if they are able to these teams could be interested in Bones just straight up. And the two that I'm most interested in, the one I wanted to get your opinion on, which is DeLon Wright has been playing great for the Wizards this year. He's kind of under contract control. We talked about him a little bit on the episode the other day. So DeLon Wright and a Wizards first, because as we have discussed, the Wizards don't draft well at all anyway. They want to basically be that play-in-ish team. They've traded with Denver recently. They lost that trade, but they did make a trade with Denver recently, and teams that do make trades together tend to make multiple trades in the future. So my thought here was basically like, you give up your 2025 first, maybe you top 10 protected or whatever to kind of save yourself in case the team really sucks, and then you give them DeLon Wright and you get back like Jeff Green and Bones Hyland to make the salary work, or whatever.
You get Ish Smith back. Let's go.
Ish Smith. There you go. Yeah, you would have to send Ish Smith somewhere else because you just traded Ish Smith there.
Yeah.
But the thought process behind it is essentially like Denver gets because the thing is that, and Denver fans have been pointing it out on social media, which is true. I've been trying to get another wing there for them, but the more they pointed it out, they're like, our whole team is kind of wings right now. Like right now we have MPJ, Aaron Gordon, KCP, who, is a guard, but doesn't handle and like can play the wing position. Like he can play the 2-3. Like you're better off trying to get a guard who's like a defensive guard that can handle the ball a little bit. And DeLon Wright fits that mold, and his contract isn't much for the next 2 years after this one even. That's a kind of trade where like you get a first round pick that you could maybe use moving forward, plus you get a good rotation player. And Washington, come on, they would fall in love with someone like Bones.
So, interesting thing I just learned while playing around making your trade work. They actually don't have to include anyone because Denver has
a trade exception. Yeah, I forgot.
Trade exception.
Yep.
9.1 trade exception.
Derek Favors or from
Monty Morris from the trade for the trade for the thing. So they actually, that's interesting because that gives them a lot of flexibility trading Bones, because that would be the other hard thing with trading Bones is that he's a $2 million player, but you can just take back salary from teams that might be close to the trade, close. You know what I'm saying? Like teams that don't want to add salary and want to pick up, that might be worth first round value for someone getting off. Like we have these teams that are kind of close to the the cap that might want to dip under the tax line just because of the absurd amount of the tax that the Clippers are going to pay, because nobody, if you don't know this, like the Clippers and the Warriors are way over, and like the higher that bucket that gets, if you're under the tax line, you get part of that money. So there's even more so than last year, there's a huge incentive to be like under the tax line. And
I think that now that you say it like that, I really do think. And what does Washington want to do? They want to sign Kuzma to a big contract, and they already have Beal and Porzingis under contract for next year.
Yeah,
and they're going to want a rookie-controlled guy who has 2 more years left on his rookie deal after this one.
Yeah, no,
at like $2 million a year.
And he would be fun. He could mentor Johnny Davis. This was mean of me.
Take him under his wing.
God, Johnny Davis is so bad that I like feel bad.
I feel bad jokes. Too. Yeah,
like,
I feel
you know
bad.
What I'm saying? Like, I've never encountered that before. Where
it's very strange.
But believed in a guy so little that I'm like, God damn, dude! Like he really has no shot.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Also, Bones from Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay.
Washington, D.C. Not far from Wilmington. Basically, a Maryland apart from.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it works. So there was that trade. There was that trade, and then the other trade that I had, this idea that actually wasn't even mine. I think we've talked about this going back a little bit in group DMs and I think we might have even thrown out these kind of infrastructures for trades, but Bones wasn't included in them. But it was basically Bones to Chicago for Alex Caruso, who fits in the trade exception. Yep. And Andre Drummond to be the backup center. So you get Caruso, who now look, maybe they value Caruso more than they value Bones. Maybe they are like, we already have enough offensive first guys. We don't really need some, although like it might be nice to sell something to the fans in Chicago just because there's really no young players that you can sell except for like Patrick Williams, if you believe in him. No. So maybe getting Bones on a team like that could be something that they could sell to the fans as opposed to going the draft pick route for Caruso. So you get Caruso and then you have Drummond as your backup center. Now, the issue that this runs into, the difference between DeLon Wright and Alex Caruso is that despite the reputation, Alex Caruso he's a better defender. He's one of the best guard defenders in the NBA. Very, very good on the ball, off the ball, team, everything. Very good. One of the best guard defenders in the NBA. But he also is not an offensive nothing, basically. Like he's not going to bring you any sort of ball handling or shooting. That DeLon Wright could at least do the ball handling thing. He's a bigger player. Like I would rather have Alex Caruso on my team, but if you're specifically for Denver, a team that will really lack shot creation if they move on from Bones, then I think that your best chance is getting a guy like DeLon Wright as opposed to Alex Caruso if possible. But I think as it showed the other day in that Sixers game and a lot of the Denver games, I just think Denver needs to focus on making their defense as good as possible for the playoffs.
And you know what? I just did the math. It puts the Wizards under the tax. Like exactly, it like perfectly puts the Wizards under the tax.
There you go.
Stay woke. Stay woke.
Yeah.
Like this one's going on TikTok. I can feel it. This is going to be a celebratory TikTok one.
So once again, I see that someone's going crazy in the comments saying that Bones is better, or I'm sorry, that Wright is better than Bones. Why would they trade for him?
Yeah.
This is the Washington Wizards. I don't know if you followed anything that they've done for the last 30 years, but they don't know what they're doing. And also, in addition to that, you, as a general manager, your job is always focused on, as the Wizards general manager, your job is always focused on keeping your own job. And if the owner comes to you and says, hey, let's get below the tax, let's not pay a lot of money, let's have someone that we can sell to the fans in the future, which, by the way, is another thing that, like, they've drafted like shit for 5 straight years. We just talked about this after they traded Rui Hashimura. Them having another guy that they can sell to the fans as a young prospect so that someone can try to give a shit about this team, then that is important for their messaging, their business end as well. And like, look, Bones might not be the most impactful player, especially at this point in his career, which, like, I honestly don't know what value a player who's 6 foot is. The thing is like Bones, in theory, it's like, oh, he has potential to be like an elite pull-up shooter with really good passing ability, which, like, 5 years ago, if I told you that, you would be like, well, that guy's going to be an all-star. But now there's so many guys that fit this archetype of player. And then in addition to that, he's one of the worst defenders, incredibly undersized. And the thing is like, he's a good passer and a playmaker and a great shooter, but he has such bad decision-making when it comes to all of that, that most of his best games are just kind of games where he's chucking and he's not creating for others. So like, I say this as someone who generally likes Bones, like as a player and as a vibes guy, but like we always talk about like what value does Maxey, Hero, and Poole have? Well, Bones will probably not even be as good as those guys. like, and those guys are like probably because like Bones can't finish. Bones is not the level of scorer that those guys are. He just in theory could be a really good player. And like, it's just like, I don't know if how much that really helps when you're trying to build like a contender in the modern NBA, but on a team like Washington, sure. Why not?
So I just realized something that's kind of insane if it's true. And I'm trying to see if like my math is wrong. I think if I'm counting right, there are 9 teams that are under the luxury tax right now in the NBA.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. So those teams are going to be.
You are going to make so much money. Like, I think there's real incentive to get under the luxury tax line. Like, you
tell me how much the Sixers are over by, because I'm pretty sure they're going to try to duck. They might end up paying a little bit in tax. Because I think they're like 12 million over or something.
They're in striking distance. Yeah, it's like 11. It's like 11.7 or something like that. Like,
they're not going to be able to get, but they're looking to because they're going to be 3 straight years. They're going to be in the repeater tax next year. So
yeah.
So they're going to try to minimize those payments as much as possible, but they're not going to be able to avoid it. But those teams like Chicago and Washington and the teams that are really not competing this year to like really do anything in the playoffs, guarantee you if they're close or above it, they're going to be getting under it. 100% chance.
Raptors are over right now. The Thunder are over bizarrely, which is kind of crazy if you like think about it.
Everything that's led up to this year, but that's from taking all those contracts for Jermichael Green, Kemba Walker. Like they still have guys on the books.
There's a ton of guys. Like I'm so interested now. This is what this does bring up is that there is one team. And Will beat me to it. I was just about to say there's one team that is under the floor right now.
Sure.
And that's the Spurs. So I think Will has it right. You know, that's what he said. That they're going to be a flotsam market. Like I think there's going to be a lot of gross trades to the Spurs. I think we've already seen one with the who did they trade when they waived Jang? The Spurs, like the
Celtics made a trade with them.
Oh, that's right. We traded
Noah Vonleh.
Yeah. And you're gonna see stuff like that. Like with just them absorbing like some of this cast off stuff is because a lot of these teams are like pretty close. Most teams in the NBA are within $5 million of the tax line right now. But the problem is that there's also like 8 of these teams who are within 5 of the line, and the Spurs don't have $40 million in cap room.
Sure.
So you like,
if I were the Spurs, I would consider doing what the Thunder did last year though, and just paying my guys unless you're getting like, we'll give you a first round pick to take on this contract type deals or a prospect you like, because I do think that when you're on these rebuilding teams, as Hinkie had to learn the hard way, players really would they kind of hated him for doing that kind of stuff when basically he took on, I think it was the JaVale McGee trade, if I remember correctly, that brought the
lead to, I think, right?
I can't even remember which trades it was, but there were a few trades where we were close to the salary floor. And for everyone who doesn't know, if you are under the salary floor after the trade deadline or by the end of the season, you actually, all the players get to split that money. So players in Oklahoma City got $3 to $4 million extra last year just for being on that team. And Presti was like, I'll just take care of the guys who are here because we're not getting good enough offers to take on contracts to go over that salary floor anyway. But Yeah, but as another thing Will points out in the comments, the Pistons are paying $20 million for Dwayne Dedmon, Kemba Walker, and DeAndre Jordan, which is insane. But also keep in mind that Doc Rivers would kill to have any of those guys in his rotation right now. So
it's also funny that because Kemba Walker, this isn't the contract Kemba Walker got waived off of. This is like Kemba Walker's second dance through the dead money, like
the Knicks one, not the one Oklahoma City's paying for from the Celtics.
Right, exactly. So it's just like that's tough. Poor Kemba, man. Nick Nurse not seeing heaven.
Well, he's on the hot seat, so
yeah. Supposedly, I'm so the Raptors thing is like fascinating. I love the Game of Thrones fucking cloak and dagger shit up there. Nick Nurse is an evil man who's playing a lot of people. I really think Masai is like skating on his culpability in the Raptors because this is not a good team. Like there is no coach in the NBA who could have made this current roster they have into like a.
Well, they have 4 good players.
Yeah,
and he has to play them 40 minutes a night, or else they're not competitive. Like, and one of the things that Raptors fans have been kind of on Masai's ass for recently is like he hasn't hit on any of the margin moves since the championship year. He's not hitting on MLE guys, vet minimum guys.
Yeah.
He's not drafted particularly well since then. Like, it's actually been kind of underwhelming.
We've talked about this. That Young trade is like sneaky one of the worst trades of like the last 3 years.
Like, like what the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Just mind-boggling how bad that trade was.
Well, it's especially bad because I guess not really recently, but they've done they do good. They've done good at the end of the first round. Like,
historically, yes, that's where they got OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam.
Right. So it's like it's kind of weird to I mean, for all of those they have Bruno Caboclo or
sure.
A couple of those.
You're going to have some misses, but you got to take as many swings as you possibly can in a market like Toronto. They don't get free agents. Like,
that Young deal, like, I don't know, like that's such a bizarre trade because he wasn't good. Like he's not.
Yeah,
he's fine. Like he's but he's a ninth rotation player.
He would be a guy that gets bought out at this deadline, and 3 teams would be like, "We'll take him for the vet minimum," but we're not Like he's not a guy who's going to have impact at age 34 on a middling team.
Buyout Thad Young, aren't they?
Maybe. Oh no, didn't he sign a 2-year extension with Toronto, or did he sign a 1-year extension?
Did they sign him with a year? I was going
to say you can look it up, but I'm pretty sure they signed him to a 2-year deal. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
But that's
he signed a 2-year, $16 million deal.
That's like a premium sunk cost fallacy right there.
Yeah, 100%.
Extend that one, but
especially when they got to the playoffs and everyone was like, "Oh, what's the one thing they need? Shooting and ball handling." Like, why bring back Thad?
Looks like the second year is unguaranteed, though.
Okay, so maybe there will be some sort of buyout or something like that. Or maybe they trade him at the deadline.
What it is, yeah. So something like that. I mean, well, do we want to do Raptors?
So we've talked about the Raptors a ton over the past 2 months.
Okay.
I just want to throw this out there.
Yeah.
I've been pretty firmly on the Raptors aren't going to do much at this deadline camp. I've been kind of like, I think this is all bullshit. I think Masai's just trying to see what value he can get and then maybe revisit it in the offseason because the only guys who are expiring here are Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. I don't buy any of it. I've pivoted slightly.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it feels like something's actually going to happen there.
Gary Trent Jr. is definitely going to be gone. We all know this. OG is the guy I think they're going to trade. I think they're going to try to bring back Fred after the year. I think that they're going to, because it's not to say that OG hasn't been there. He's been there about the same amount of time as Fred, but Fred, is a guy that in the past, Masai has proven that he will be willing to let it go to free agency to work out a sign and trade or just bring the guy back and try to trade him later. And he might do that with Fred because I don't think Fred has a ton of value right now, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And then OG is the one. And ever since I went on Pound the Rock, I've just been thinking, and all the tea leaves that you read coming out of there. You heard even a Toronto guy said on his podcast, like he's heard that OG isn't super thrilled with his role there. They said that, every week we hear about 3 firsts are available, a DeJounte Murray type package they're looking for. There's been so much dialogue. There will be something. I think OG is going to be the one that gets moved at this deadline. And I think it would be not really breaking, but Chris Haynes said today there's been rumbling all season about not just one, but a few players being unhappy in Toronto. And you know what? Shout out to Jake Fisher, because Jake Fisher got a lot of shit for this last offseason at the draft when he said that about OG. And people were acting like he was full of shit. And he was honestly probably right. Like, and I had multiple people reach out to me afterwards that were like, hey, just so you know, I heard the same thing. Like, I think that OG is the one that they could end up moving on from. And I think it would be a really smart move for them to do that. Like the Pound the Rock guys, they're Raptors guys, and they know a ton about basketball. And they were basically like, this is the moment to trade OG. The highest possible value, year and a half left on a good deal. If you could get 3, even 2 first round picks and 2 decent seconds, I think you got to try to make this move. You got to switch something up because something isn't working. And so I would guess that it's OG and Gary Trent Jr. traded at this deadline, if anything.
Did you see Celtics Matt's idea that the reason the Celtics are interested in Poeltl is to go after OG?
So his idea was basically that you can. So his idea was OG would be the Celtics' last all-in type move, and they would trade. So how does the salary work on that, though? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
If you could do it in the offseason as a sign and trade with Grant Williams, like
okay,
like hypothetically could work on the Raptors as like a corner three threes guy, whatever. And then like, you're also Peyton Pritchard is in there. You probably would have to trade Brogdon too. I think at some point.
That was what I was thinking. Is like, do you trade? But this sounded like something that he wanted for the deadline. And in my brain, I was like, we have the Gallo contract, and then you have a bunch of Derek White, because you guys actually do have your picks. But I think that once again, I've said it. We've said it all season. If there's one team that shouldn't make big trades at this deadline, it's probably the Celtics. But if you think there's a chance in your mind that Masai would actually trade OG to the Celtics, which I'm skeptical.
I doubt it. Yeah. I mean, so here's my report from Celtics land, because
hold on before you say anything, Liam. The trade wouldn't just be Grant Williams. It would be the idea was the Celtics would give picks.
A lot of picks.
A lot of like 2 or 3 picks.
Yeah,
exactly. This is like their last move to really basically make the rotation just filled with defensive wings and guards and guys that, So just wanted to throw that out there. It would not be a straight up Grant Williams and Gallo and whatever.
Peyton Pritchard, Brogdon, and whatever else. There would also just be a ton of picks. I'm going to, like removing protections on that top 1 pick that they owe the Spurs would go there, and then Poeltl would go to the.
It's a swap, so you wouldn't have to.
But it would become their pick.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is. Yeah. So, but anyway, the other thing that I think is my report, because YKB, our intrepid Discord, I think has had the Celtics fan base, including myself, correctly diagnosed where they're fucking babies and are going absolutely insane about the 3-game losing streak and some of this other stuff. That the Celtics have to get Jakob Poeltl right now or they don't stand a chance.
Right. There was a Celtics fan who tweeted at me. I was talking with Josh Eberly, who's I believe he's a Raptors guy, but or he's at least from Canada. Yeah. And I was talking with him, and we were saying, because Windy said the Sixers are the one team he thinks should stand pat at the deadline, and I was like, no, I still think the Sixers need one upgrade, maybe 2 upgrades. I would be pretty surprised if Morey didn't make a trade. And we both agreed. We were like, the Celtics are the only team. And then a Celtics fan tweeted at me and was like, it's so weird to see 2 fans of non-Celtics fans that are just looking at this objectively being like, oh shit, the Celtics should probably just keep it like that. Meanwhile, after every loss, we're like, we have to trade Peyton Pritchard, Grant Williams,
the echo chamber is like, we have to get rid of Rob Williams because he missed a January game against the Lakers for 23. Like that's how much anxiety everyone the Celtics have. There's just no gumption whatsoever. I don't know. I'm skeptical. It's just crazy to see. It's like you have to get a big, and it's like, is Jakob Poeltl really irreplaceable? As you revealed to me 2 weeks ago or a week ago, he shoots 50% from the free throw.
Yeah, I think Jakob Poeltl is he's very much an NBA nerd fantasy guy. I don't really in that he's this hyper valuable player on a playoff team. Maybe in a specific context, but I don't know. I think time has shown that centers are less valuable in the playoffs, and especially centers who can't shoot. Like, I don't really know where that works.
I just think Celtics fans just are fucking insane. Where they it's like the grass is always greener thing. Where it's like, this is like, it's got to be better. Like if we brought in Jakob Poeltl, like if Jakob Poeltl played 3 games for the Celtics, they would want him tarred and feathered. Like,
yeah, 100%.
He wouldn't make it. So,
well, this parallel might not work in a week or two if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, but I've been saying to my friends, that Eagles and Celtics fans are actually very similar and that they're spoiled as fuck, and that like the Eagles have been the best NFC team for almost 20 years now. Like they've made it to just as many Super Bowls as any other team, I believe. They've won more divisions than any other team. They pretty much have had sustained success for so long. And then we lose one game to the Cowboys and it's like, we need to fire Jonathan Gannon. We have the best defense in the NFL. And we're like, no, we need to get rid of all the coaches.
I mean, with the Celtics, there's also some like Patriots carryover to the absolute God tier spoiled shithead
100%
fan base.
Oh my God. Oh, by the way, Keith Smith, I'm sorry that the Super Bowl isn't good enough for you this year and you're not interested in this matchup. I had to watch the Patriots in the Super Bowl for fucking 15 years. You can get over it, okay?
I will say, I wish it was Bengals. I do wish it was Bengals Eagles.
I'm glad I don't have to root against our communist hero Joe Burrow, who I recently learned is anti-capitalist. So
let's go.
Yeah, it's much easier to root against Patrick Mahomes, who is the greatest, but not the best off the field, I'm sure.
Right. But anyway, I think that when we're talking about, well, here, let's just transition to this, because something I've been noticing is the reverse jinx is on for your Sixers. They are getting the kiss of the national media darlings. Zach has waxed poetic a little bit about your beautiful Sixers.
Bill said that Embiid is the front runner for MVP after the Jokic game.
No, Zach even kind of conceded that, surprisingly. In the thing. He also said that we'll get there in a little, but anyway, I think that we've got to kind of start talking about it, because I think your Sixers might actually get the 1 seed. I was looking at the standings and it's very funny how it's essentially right now exactly what I would have guessed it was before the season.
Before I had my childish meltdown in the first 3 weeks of the season, first month of the season when we were looking like dog shit. But this is what I anticipated. This literally almost to a T. These are the standings I expected. With the one, actually, now that I think about it, I think if you go back and you listen to our preseason podcast, if you swap the Cavs and the Heat right now, I think I had the exact top 8 or the exact top 7 right. Maybe the Knicks threw that off because I think I had the Knicks in the 9 or the 10 seed. But pretty much we both kind of called this from the jump, but it does feel like we got here in a weird way, right? Because the Sixers being as good as they have been for 2 months now was not what we anticipated. I had anticipated this from the jump. I had anticipated they were going to come out and try to send a statement, and then it really didn't turn into that. And then the Celtics having their weird up and down where they win 10 games in a row and then they lose 4 games in a row.
They avoided the 4-game losing streak, which this is true. No NBA champion has ever lost 4 games in a row. So the Celtics,
wow, really
avoiding.
I think the Sixers have not lost 4 in a row all year, so we have hope. They've lost 3 in a row is the most.
This is what I wanted to get to. Tro, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you a believer? You have been largely skeptical. You have not crowned your beautiful Sixers true championship contenders a realistic chance here. Do you think that they actually have a chance now? Have they entered the conversation?
I'm not going to. Okay, so have they thrown their hat in the ring? Yeah, sure. Yes. I don't think that there are many teams right now. I would say the teams that I would put above them, because for a number of reasons in terms of easier road, I would put Denver above them, but I think the Sixers would beat Denver in a 7-game series, if that makes sense, because Denver's just going to have an easier path. I would put Denver, Boston, and Milwaukee ahead of them. And I know that I've been kind of shitting on the Bucks this year and saying I think the Sixers could take them in a series. I still think that the Bucks, if they get Crowder and Middleton gets healthy, I trust them a little bit more in a playoff series against most teams. In a Sixers-Bucks head-to-head, I could see the Sixers winning. I could also see the Sixers somehow losing to like the fucking Heat or some shit, or the Cavs or whatever. So I still think there's too much variance with the Sixers, whereas I trust the Bucks a little bit more, even though I haven't been in love with that team this year, but they've shown me some more recently. Overall, I'll say this much.
Yeah.
I want to address a few things because we're going to talk about this. Let's talk about the Sixers Nuggets game right now. I don't really have anything to say about the Miles Turner contract extension, except for the fact that he's on the the trade block for another 5 years. Great, fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. I will say I'm not willing to say that they are surefire championship contenders. I think that they are among the few that could, just because I don't really believe in a ton of teams outside the Celtics. And then more importantly, I need to see one more move. If you roll into the playoffs with Montrezl Harrell as your backup center, you're not winning anything. If you roll into the playoffs with Andre Drummond or even like a Mason Plumlee or like someone I could trust like a little bit more, I could talk myself into them making an Eastern Conference Finals or a Finals run. And then more importantly, if there is a guy that I know, someone who's been out there, like if there's one guy that I think that if you're making your last move and you can make a push for him, as I mentioned on there, and it's a realistic trade and the Blazers are actually interested, get Josh Hart, because I think that they really need another energy guy that can rebound, that can do some things with the ball, good passer. Like I would like to see them make one more wing upgrade and a backup center, even if it's not a massive move. I just need to have a little bit more faith in the depth of this team. But overall, they've been playing amazingly, and they've been the best team in the NBA for a month now. So I can't really say that they're not contenders, because I think that regular season matters more than people think. It does. Like, I don't care about all the injury stuff. I don't care about whatever. If you don't have one of the 7 best players in the league and you're not one of the 3 best players or 3 best teams in your conference, you're not winning the title. Like, history just shows us that. So that's what it really comes down to. And Embiid proved in that game against Jokic, and he has improved pretty much time and time again this season, that he can go toe-to-toe with the best players in the NBA, and that's what they need for a run for them to really get to the conference finals or the finals.
Yeah. And so let me, because I was just going to say, I have the scenario dream cooked up for you, okay? Your Sixers get the 1 seed, which is I think we've both agreed is a huge part of their championship equity.
Sure. They do have the hardest schedule left in the NBA, I think, or second hardest.
But only 1 game back in the loss column of the Celtics with Marcus Smart hurt and, like Al Horford on load management, some other stuff. If they do that, let's say it is Nets-Cavs 4-5 matchup and the Cavs beat the Nets. So now you're going to round 2 with a Cavs matchup, and you leave the Celtics and the Bucks to do it again out west. And, if the Bucks can assassinate the Celtics in round 2, which I think is possible, I think it's definitely possible if Chris Middleton is back to then you're up against the Bucks. Cavs second round, Bucks third round. I think the Sixers could make
that's the path
on that. Yeah,
that's the path. Avoid the Celtics and the Nets, and that's your highest percentile chance of getting to the finals and winning the finals. And honestly, I look at the Western Conference and I say, I actually think all the teams that win the East will beat the West.
Yes, I agree.
Fairly easily. Like, I've come around to that idea. Like, I think it's going to be like 6 games and not a particularly close series if it's like Nuggets, Celtics, Nuggets, Bucks, Nuggets, Sixers.
Okay. Will has told me to unalive myself because I said that the guys with the Nets would be So Will, let me hold on. Let me say this though, Will.
Is Kevin Durant 100%? Because I'm taking the Nets in that series of Kevin Durant.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was just I want to be clear. That was just a
scenario for the Sixers.
Yeah, it was a scenario.
Yeah.
I also would absolutely take the Nets up against the Nuggets in the West, to Trill's point. So there we go. Our beautiful Nets are back on if that happens. So
I actually am I think I'm higher on the Nets than most. Like, I'm higher on just get Kevin Durant to a meaningful playoff series with a good roster. And I think that they could win. Like, they have the upside of winning the East. I don't know if they'll get there, but they could definitely win the East.
They have more guys than people think. And people are not caught up on how good Nick Claxton is.
Yeah. His offense is just so much better this year. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, he's like if they could turn Ben Simmons into like 2 rotation guys, they would be incredible.
Yes.
Like they.
So that is the question. Do they even put it out there? Like, is there a team that's willing to take on Ben Simmons and whatever this mess has become?
Spurs. Let's get the Spurs. That would be so bad.
I think Will literally said earlier that he was looking at Jakob Poeltl and like or Josh Richardson for Ben or some shit. Like,
yeah, I think I saw that too, and that's that. Look, man, I would consider that. I mean, it's funny because the Kings are competent because the Kings used to be my go-to for like the circus team that would take the everyone, and now I don't really know who that is.
Now the Kings are the team that makes savvy moves, like taking Keegan Murray over Jaden Ivey and trading for Kevin Huerter for a first-round pick.
They smoked us. I got to apologize. I really thought them leaving Jaden Ivey on the board was like, here we go, Kangs again. Yeah.
It's even worse than I thought. Josh Richardson and Zach Collins for Ben. Let's go. All right.
I think I would do it if I were the Nets, which is sad too. I just think Ben is like a nothing, like just a 0 negative. Oh man, it's really bad.
So I will say this much.
Yep.
The game that I want to talk a little bit about with Jokic and Embiid the other day, I have to give 2 people that I've shit on a lot, a lot of credit. Look, I knew Joel Embiid had this in him. Have I doubted that Joel Embiid could be the best player on a championship team before? Yes. Have I doubted that he can do what he does when he has one of these big matchups, especially in the regular season? Absolutely not. I knew that he was going to get up for this game. I knew that he takes the Jokic matchup personally because the media loves Jokic, and he views himself as just as good, if not better, than Jokic. And I think that this was a statement game from him, and I know the MVP stuff is what's going to get the headlines, but Doc Rivers made the best adjustment that he's ever made in his career by putting PJ Tucker on him and letting Embiid roam on the baseline. And I had Nuggets fans tweeting at me saying, this never works. The Jazz did it a few years ago and Jokic figured it out. Well, look, dude, if they win the finals over us, I think I will survive if the Sixers can get to the finals because we showed our cards in a January game. I was like, there's no situation in which I will be sad in where the Sixers get to the finals, even if they were to lose to Jokic and the Nuggets. Getting to the finals it would be a dream for me this season. So I want to say PJ Tucker was incredible on Jokic. His defense was awesome. The one thing that has me, and look, I still think that PJ is going to have his moments in the playoffs where like teams are just going to ignore him and they're going to blow up the Harden and Embiid pick and roll and fuck up the Sixers offense. But I will say that he has shown his value in big games this year in a way that he wasn't showing early in the season. So like the Bucks game, he showed a lot of value. The last Bucks game, not the first one. The last Bucks game, he showed a lot of value. The Clippers game, the Nuggets game, these games that are kind of when you traded for PJ Tucker, this is the guy you thought you were getting, where he's going to cause a lot of chaos on defense. And he's at least willing to shoot the corner threes. Now, look, it's not always going to be pretty. He's getting a lot of hustle rebounds, the shit that you really traded for PJ Tucker for. And I have to give him credit. I thought he was awesome in that game, and he allowed Embiid to do what he does best, which is protect the rim and not have to worry about being out on the perimeter. So, all things considered, I'm eating a little bit of crow. They've been awesome recently. Doc's been great. PJ's been great. So I have to say that those things, I'm hoping that it's sustainable and that they don't break down by the time the playoffs come around. But just a little thing. I know it was one game in January and everyone keeps talking about like the narrative game stuff. The Sixers never win these narrative games. And Joel was fucking pissed after he got snubbed as a starter in the All-Star game, which was absurd. And I actually think a lot of people were mad at Spike Eskin for saying this, but I actually kind of agreed with him on this. If you're willing to say that you're mad at the rules, which is like basically like the 5 best players should start regardless of position, which I do agree with, the 5 best players should start regardless of position. You have to be willing to just say, like, take Giannis out, take KD out, take Tatum out. Who are you putting Embiid over? Because I would argue that you could put him over literally any of those guys. He's been just as good as any player in the NBA this season. He's been arguably the MVP of the league since his slow start. And I just think that he's feeling underappreciated, and he's kind of taking it out in these big games and showing that he can be the player we always thought he could be. Now, we'll see over a 7-game series. We'll see in the playoffs. I'm still a little skeptical on that just because of not even just like past performance, just like the idea of having your best player as like a big in a playoff series nowadays. It's a little bit tougher, but I'm looking forward to the playoffs because these narrative games might not act like they matter, but it was undeniable after the other night that like if this game had gone the other way, as Kyle Neubeck pointed out, the media would have been like, "Oh, Jokic third MVP. It's a wrap," all this shit. And what it came down to was, Embiid outplayed him for, honestly, in my opinion, the second straight game they've played, and the Sixers actually got the win this time. So,
yeah, and I think that's been a huge. I think that's made everyone kind of like look at the standings and realize, oh shit, the Sixers are a game back in the loss column. Like
it kind of popped up on me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, I mean they're sneaking up. The Celtics were at a 4-game lead not that long ago, and it's gone. So I mean we'll see. Everything this stuff all ebbs and flows. We'll see when Marcus. Celtics will get Marcus Smart back eventually, and that'll probably stabilize things. But I really think that we're heading for a really interesting. I don't think the Celtics are the lock that I once did, especially when it comes to like regular season one, them getting the 1 seed. Like they have diaper disaster games in them. It is in their DNA. Like they are the diaper disaster like team, just in terms of like bad turnovers, just crushing them. I mean. Those of you who joined us on the stream for the Heat game got to watch my reaction to every Celtics sniper disaster when it happens. So, yeah, it's gonna be. I'm starting to. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little worried for us that this was gonna be a pretty uninteresting trade deadline, but I think it's gonna be one of those ones that seems quiet, and I think it's gonna really ramp up in like the last week. And I think we might actually see some like real player movement and a couple of things sneak up on us that might not happen. And I'm excited for OG Anunoby to be on the Sixers.
The Sixers.
Yeah,
let's go. I know you meant the Celtics, but
no, I meant the Sixers. Tyrese Maxey is
Maxey for him. Oh God, no, please don't.
Tyrese Maxey, you are a Raptor.
No.
Like
please no. Wait. I'm literally the guy in the
Wait. They got OG. Who'd they send back?
Wait. So, as far as your Celtics go, I've been meaning to say this because when I went on Pound the Rock, one of the things I said was that Masai has this reputation as a aggressive GM, and I actually think it's the complete opposite, and he's one of the most conservative GMs in the NBA.
Yeah,
and I think that Brad Stevens is like, here's the thing. Yeah, I don't think the Celtics are going to make a huge home run swing at this deadline. But I think that Brad Stevens is much more likely to do it than most GMs. Like, I think that he realizes that this is the moment. And, like, one of the things that I miss about when Morey was in Houston was that, like, he was just taking these swings every fucking fuck it. No more draft picks, no more nothing. Let's just go for it. And since he's got here, he's been, like, a little bit more conservative. And, like, I would rather have my GM swing big and miss on a championship window than just, like, kind of let things pass.
Brad Stevens is still not going to have the right now. The first round draft pick Brad Stevens is going to make as the Boston Celtics GM is scheduled to be in 2024. He fucking hates this. Like, and honestly, he keeps trading on like draft night and the overnight thing. I don't know. I don't know if you saw, because there's also some like weird stuff with like Peyton Pritchard like giving interviews that he's like not happy with his role.
The Warriors were interested in him apparently.
Yeah, there's some stuff like, Grant Williams didn't resign. Now part of that is, he is a vice president of the, players union. And like, it is kind of, he said that, and it is kind of in his best interest to, present as I'm always getting the best deal. That's something for that. But the Celtics have some pieces and they do have some stuff. Like, I think that they could make a bigger swing than like people realize. Like I do think I am starting to get the sense that they are a little bit like more in play. The fact that they're sniffing around Pirtle is very weird to me. I don't think that should be the move. I don't think, even though a big is what they need, I don't think trading in assets for a big is a good thing necessarily.
Why? If I were them, I would try to. I'm not even like. I always say like the same 5 or 6 guys,
right?
But like
we call that dunked on our dunked on brain.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
But like,
yeah,
but like, why not try to send like Peyton Pritchard in a first-round pick to the Jazz for Jared Vanderbilt?
Yeah, or something.
Yeah, like someone who can play the 4 and the 5, like in theory can play with Horford. Probably not Rob as much, but like it would be an amazing Rob insurance policy, I should say.
Yeah. Or like, how about this? Gallo and Pritchard to the Pistons for Nerlens Noel or something like that. Like,
I honestly think you would be better off just waiting on Nerlens because I think you could probably get him on a buyout.
Yeah, or I think he's got 2 years left, right? He's got 2 years left.
No. He's definitely getting bought out though, right?
You would think this one. I mean, maybe.
Wait, does he have next year too?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Man, I forgot he signed like a 4-year deal with the Knicks or something.
Yeah, it's
Jesus
crazy.
Christ, dude.
But you know, point stand, something like that. You know, like but I just don't think that you need to. I don't think you need to attaching a first round pick to like get fucking Mason Plumlee or whatever the fuck.
No, that would be
the
insane.
answer. You know, like
so, absolutely not. Yeah.
So I don't know, and I just the money thing, I'm really interested by the money thing. That is the thing that I'm watching as we get into the deadline, is how many teams need to shed money, how there's not a lot of teams that can take on money. And I think that is going to change things a little bit in terms of like the arithmetic, where we've been talking a lot about teams needing to buy for their teams. But I also think that the financial aspect of this is going to come in when the owners kind of push comes to shove. And there are going to be some teams willing to take small selling steps to kind of get themselves under that line, because there's significant financial incentive to get under the tax this year.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of teams will be doing that at this deadline, which is what might make it a little bit uneventful for some fan bases, but it will be a funny thing to track while we're streaming on YouTube for Slopfest 2023, 7 hours long. By the way, our coverage, I don't know if you caught this, but our coverage is going to be 3 hours longer than ESPN's trade deadline day coverage. So
that's right, we're better than the worldwide leader.
That is right, dude. Oh, speaking of the worldwide leader, I have information that will lead to the social media managers of ESPN's YouTube page arrest.
I saw that.
Okay. 71 combined points for Jokic and Embiid. Embiid scored 47 points, okay? If this were the other way around, I swear to God, it's so true that the Jokic and Embiid shit turns us into QAnon, because we feel like the only ones that are like we're like everyone else is insane and that we're the normal ones. So we're like screaming like, it's not fair. It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
So, I just want to say I'm about as high on the Sixers as you could possibly be, but I'm very, very weary of committing when all of these teams that get the media love cycle, like the Celtics early in the year, who are still the 1 seed, by the way, but like have definitely fallen off comparative to their early season start. The Nets with KD, and then KD gets hurt not that much longer after that. The Grizzlies, and now the Grizzlies have fallen off a little bit. Like I'm willing to just like kind of like, okay, I'm even open to like trying to do more load management stuff down the stretch, because I know that everyone loves to bitch about load management, but I'm sorry, Bill Simmons. If you wanted people to care about the regular season, stop making your podcast about every player's legacy only mattering with awards and fucking championships. Because the reason why players only fucking care about the playoffs is because the last 20 years of sports media has been, if you don't play well in the playoffs, you're a fucking choker. And there are reasons why guys like Harden, who, when their bodies were breaking down after playing 100,000 minutes in the regular season, are not looked upon as fondly by history. And that's where I'm like, I know it does. They are right in that it creates a worse product for sure. But also, like, that's not the player's fault, dude. That is literally the amount of travel and games and cut the fucking schedule, make it so that there are less games, and then make it so, like, I don't think there should be penalties. I think just give us 65 games. We don't need 82 games.
Yeah, well, and this is why it will never happen because they need the money.
Yes.
And if you work for, I mean, I'm going to sound like a fucking, Adbusters Sam coming out here, but like you really do like there you can't point that out. You can't point out that the money won't, go
Sure.
away. Like so and that so you have to find a way to kind of play the players here. By the way, the contempt Zach has for the Clippers is like crazy. It's like
I think he kind of brain poisoned me a little bit. Him and Bill both hate the Clippers, dude.
It's so weird because Bill has always been like, randy about this stuff, but I just can't believe it's such a boomer take to just be furious with the Clippers for having like load management and like being mad. You can tell Zach is like furious that they're the 4 seed right now, though.
Despite all of it,
right? Yeah, and it's like, well, sorry, they're doing it. Like, this is how it works now. Like, they looked around the Western Conference and correctly were like, yeah, everyone here sucks.
It's actually kind of it. We should only care in like March and April when we need to ramp things up for the playoffs. And by the way, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both have Kawhi has like half a knee. Of course they're going to be cautious with him. It doesn't mean that I believe in them as contenders, but I understand why they're doing it. They're being as cautious as possible with the only possible guy who could ever lead them to a championship. So and once again, all this shit is because people only care about championships. The Clippers have been one of the most successful teams for a decade, and they have only gotten shit from the media for a decade. No matter what they do, they will get shit. If they go all in, if they don't go hard enough, if they lose in the second round, if they make it to the conference finals, they have, some of it is their own doing, but this is very much a media creation of, if you only give a shit about championships, then this is what's going to happen, dude. And kind of just going back to the whole thing about they're the 4 seed right now, and they're actually not that far back from the 3 seed. They talked about this on Thinking Basketball. Ben Taylor did a thing on this. Are you aware of how many teams have made the finals as a non-top 2 seed in the past 40, I believe it was the past 43 years. So since 1980, how many non-top 2 seeds have made the finals since then?
Celtics, the 2010 Celtics were a 4 seed. And
they made not made the finals, won the finals.
Oh, won the finals. Okay.
I'm sorry, that was my bad. This is why I'm talking about regular season stuff matters more than I think people think.
I think the Dirk Mavericks were a 3 seed, if I remember correctly.
So how they did it was, if you had one of the 3 best records, they counted that. As far as if you were tied, they wouldn't count that because you effectively were the 3 seed. You might have just been in the 4 seed. Because remember how they used to do it with divisional alignment and stuff? But if you had one of the 3 best records, basically.
Oh, okay.
So there has only been 3 teams since 1980 that have won the finals.
Mm-hmm.
The Rockets, who traded for Clyde Drexler in the middle of the season in the 90s. Mm-hmm. They won the finals as the 6 seed. And then since then, there has been last year's Warriors were the 3 seed and they won.
Yep.
And then, I think the Mavericks were the 2 seed. That was the other thing. I think the Mavericks were the 2 seed that year, they said, which was surprising because we thought the same thing. And then the other thing was the Bucks 2 years ago. And they were the 3 seed. So basically the only non-top 3 seed from the past 43 years that has won the NBA Finals was the Houston Rockets, who traded for Clyde Drexler halfway through the year.
So when we're saying top 3 seed, do we mean both conferences or
so that was each conference, but they also went further on that, and they said every team except for the Rockets had one of the 5 best records in the NBA.
Okay.
So when people say that regular season stuff doesn't matter, it does matter. The product might not be as good with the load management shit, and that can drive you crazy. And honestly, it sucks for me too. I do streams and I'm like, I don't know if Jokic and Embiid are playing tonight. Don't get me wrong, that sucks. But at the end of the day, I don't know. We are all participants in this, and there's a reason why, is because we only get, and I'm guilty of it too. I go and say I don't know if Sabonis could play on a championship team.
It's customer brain.
Yes.
It's customer brain. If you are mad at them for not playing, you are I'm sorry, you are the white woman asking to see the manager.
You're the Karen.
Because, there's too much. There's not enough tartar sauce on your fillet of fish. Like, this is exactly what. This is what that is. Like, it's such a. I mean, I get it. Like, kids, want to see the thing. I get it. You especially on the road, like, you want to have your chance to see Steph Curry play. You want to have your chance to see, your favorite player play. That is like the only way you have any argument whatsoever, because the real issue here is there's too many damn fucking games. I would love to see a write-up of how standings change between games 65 and 82.
Yeah.
Like what would that make so different? You know what I'm saying? Outside of like injuries are the only thing that I think would make like a huge difference. Like,
I think it would make the playoffs way better. Like, and that's the thing, is like you would have you would have less variance for injury. Yeah. You would have fresher legs when you got to the playoffs. Yeah. And everyone would still play the large majority of games in this instance. Like, I just don't really see a way in which that could be negative, except for, once again, as we've talked about, they'll never do it because they have to cut 15 to 17 games that no one really cares about, even if it enhances the fan experience for the regular season and the playoffs. And the playoffs is really where the real money is made anyway. That's where they get their ratings that they can sell to advertisers, that they can sell to TV networks that want to pick up this shit.
Why not have your stupid fucking midseason tournament and cut like 10 games there, and the midseason tournament's 5 or whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, something like that. Like, like maybe that's the solution, because it seems insane to me that you could make more money off of whatever, like, dog shit Orlando Magic, Hornets matchup or whatever the fuck is going on. Like, end of season game where like everybody's sitting everyone. Like, wouldn't a national primetime, like a fun little tournament game in the middle of the thing? I would love that. I would love a fucking like little tournament. Like, you can play those and then
have
just
the tanking
regular
teams
season
in there.
game.
Like,
Sure, that'd be more fun. Like something like that. Yeah.
I actually think the best way to do that is, and look, this might be a little bit hard to figure out, but like maybe you have a tournament even at the end of the series before the playoffs even starts, like a mini tournament that is parallel to the play-in, and you can do like a competition. You could have teams play for the number 1 pick. That would be cool. Like something like that would be right. Or maybe better lottery odds or whatever, because like then you have to have like a somewhat competent team, and you can't just like completely tank your way to try to get like the top pick in the draft. I don't know. There are interesting ideas out there for sure.
I want to address some allegations. Phil,
what are the allegations?
Will has levied at me that I want to cut Magic games because I'm scared of Jonathan Paulo in a 1-8 matchup in the first round. Yes, I admit it. I am terrified. I would rather play the Heat again than the Magic. I'm terrified of the Magic. This would be I don't want to see the Magic coming out of I do not want to see the Magic coming out of the bottom of the East.
The Sixers and the Magic are about to tip off, and I'm more stressed for this than I was during the Nuggets game the other day. So I'm worried. I'm worried about those, especially Markelle Fultz's first game in Philly. They're playing Monday and Wednesday. One of these games, the Sixers will have dead legs or not give a shit like they usually do in these games. So, I'm trying to avoid that kind of team in the first round, especially. I'm definitely, give me the Hawks or the Knicks. Instead of maybe not the Hawks.
Give me the fucking Heat. I don't care. I don't care about rat mode. They've defeated rat mode. I know they just lost, but like
Jaylen Brown didn't play in that game, right? Oh no, Jimmy Butler didn't play either though. So that's who is the ultimate neutralizer.
No, it's not. I'm not scared of the Heat. Bring me the Heat.
All right. So what would be, before we move on to the conspiracy theory stuff, which we do want to talk about before we get out of here.
Yeah.
What would be the best, like just looking at the general standings, and we can include the teams that are going to be in the play-ins for the Eastern Conference for our teams. What would be the best first round matchups? Like just from like a pure entertainment standpoint.
Oh, okay. Entertainment. I thought you meant, I was like,
no, not for us. No,
I will take the Wizards.
Yeah, I was like, give me the Wizards or the Sixers, the Bulls. Like they've always owned them, but definitely the Wizards.
So realistic matchups. I think that, honestly, I think if it's hard to get back there.
I kind of would go Sixers Hawks just because of the history for sure. 100%.
That's one matchup I think for sure. I think Heat Bucks honestly would be kind of interesting. Like the
Nets Cavs would be good too.
Yeah,
and then it really just comes down to figuring out a matchup for the
Celtics Knicks.
Celtics Knicks
is like it's not enough
scrappy. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've definitely been scrappy with you guys.
Knicks have won some games. RJ Barrett's game winner, like the only good player of RJ Barrett's career. Yeah.
He's literally he's exactly what everyone thought he was going to be, just only against the Celtics.
Right.
At the end of games.
That would be like pretty interesting. I mean, I honestly, Bulls Celtics would be very interesting. A return to the 1-8 matchup, the demons of
and as we know, DeMar has at least 1 or 2 games every year where he plays like MJ against the Celtics.
Yes. Yeah. So
I might have it in him.
I'm not comfy out of the 1 seed. I think I would be less confident this year with all of these dog shit teams than I were against the Nets last year, just because of the bad vibes. Like I could tell the Nets had bad vibes last year. Like
despite the talent level being higher.
Yes, exactly. So I'm really interested to see. I think that's the best possible playoff. So Bucks Heat for sure. Hawks Sixers.
I kind of want Hawks Sixers. I need in the first round, I need just like a palate cleanser. I need one that's just like going to make me feel good and like maybe get some demons out, because if they lose to any team but the Celtics or Bucks in this year, there are going to be major changes for sure. Those are the only 2 teams I think they could afford to lose to and not have it like completely go to shit, because those are the 2 teams that I think can win the finals really. So, all right. Okay. Let's get into our conspiracy theory hour here. Let's, I know that I saved this for the end because I know this is for the real YKB sickos who have been following the podcast for quite some time now and are interested to hear our takes on this Jaren Jackson Jr. conspiracy. Sam, the floor is yours for this portion.
Let me just say, you know how sometimes like when you're dieting, they say nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. Vindication tastes is just a delicious treat. I love it so much. You know who is not involved in a statistics, a league-wide deep statistics conspiracy thing is Robert Williams. Robert Williams is an honest man. You know who's not an honest man? Jaren Jackson Jr., the fraud himself. So, by the way, who was it who looked into that? I think Fred Katz looked into this. So it's not actually the scorer is not the person in the FedEx arena, right? Yeah. Like it is the league is the one who reviews and goes over this.
So Tim Cato did a piece on this, and I pulled some stuff from there that we'll get to.
So that makes me think. So how deep does this go? That turned me into Rust Cole, where I was like, you know, Reggie Ledoux, Black Stars, and Carcosa. Like I have to see what's going on.
Jaren Jackson Jr., it's impossible to say whether the Ringer-led Bill Simmons media.
Yeah. Folks, I want to tell you something. I've been on this Grizzlies thing for a hot minute here, and actually just kind of sounds like Vernon a little bit.
We were trying to impersonate Alex Jones, and we were just like, "Oh no, this is just Chris Vernon.
This is just Chris Vernon again."
Ringer Infowars.
Yeah, shout out Ringer Innocent, Chris Vernon.
Yeah,
Vernon, come on the pod.
Vernon, our boy.
Come on the pod.
Literally our boy.
But
but he would never go at Jaren Jackson Jr. like that, to be fair.
So I guess what I wonder, so Kev, you know, did you look at what friend of the pod, NBA Couch said? He pulled a scraping tool and he like looked at all of the data to see some of the biggest discrepancies. I think Booker's assists were one. There's a little bit of this, you know.
If Bol is playing at home, hit that higher on Underdog Fantasy is what we have learned from the assists total for Bol.
Yeah, something like that. So KOC went through and did his own debunking, and I debunked KOC's debunking. Like, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, some people are like, yeah, I watched them. They're close, and then they're treating the close calls like, yeah, that's a blind. Come on,
come on.
It's weird. I'm sorry, it
really
is weird. Like, it is like a 40 game sample size. Like, I went through and watched a lot of the examples are pretty damning. I really think that like some of this stuff. I mean, part of it can be things part of it can be that when you're like on the road, like young teams especially are juiced up, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they're more amped, they're running around a little more, higher effort level, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I heard 23-year-old birthday parties are really something. Verno and House told me on Bill's pod, so just want to say that that was basically what they chalked up to the Grizzlies losing on the road, is that they're out partying every night. So
yeah,
young team,
young team. Yeah, sure. What happens? They don't care about it. Well, poor leadership, John Morant. You've heard it here first. So I guess just like I think what I'm saying here is Shannon Sharp innocent.
Yeah.
What have we learned here? Shannon Sharp correctly intuited that the
right side of history.
Frauds, yeah. So I stand with Shannon Sharp. He was correct in everything that he did, unless it comes out he said something bad, in which case I run away off of that take. But I mean, like dropping kayfabe, it is weird, right? Like it's weird, at least. Like
it's weird. It's weird, and it's also like I don't know. Everything I've said, everything I've seen that like debunks it. Yeah. I'm still like, look, there's definitely some weird shit going on here. Like it's, and I think what we can take from this is that every single, I don't know if it's home game or whatever, but like, I think every single team has something like this. Early in the season, it was Halliburton with the assists.
Yes.
And to be fair, Tim Cato did go through and he basically said it's not just one guy that's like taking care of this. It's a crew of 4 people who are at every arena, who are part-time employees or contractors of the team. They're put separate from everyone in the organization. There's an inputter. He and the spotter stay up with the action as it occurs. There's a touchscreen laptop, and the spotter is calling out everything that happens on the court. The inputter is punching it into the system. There's a third person, a secondary inputter, who's basically listening in and sitting by the spotter. He or she is listening and basically editing in real time. They have a DVR that they can go back and they can rewatch to make sure that they're getting things right. But it does feel like this happens way more often. Like someone said, KD gets 300% more assists at home or more steals at home. There were plenty of examples of teams benefiting from this. And this has a real, and I saw a lot of people saying, well, if you have a problem with the steals and block stuff, like the numbers element of it, just watch the games and tell me that's who you should vote for Defensive Player of the Year. But the problem to me is, we know that's not how media voters think.
That's the thing. So like, because that's the thing that I come back to is I was surprised by how many of those guys that Kev pulled were like big names. Like Isaac Okoro was on there, sure. But like a lot of these guys are guys who are in contention for real important stuff.
Sure.
Like Jaren Jackson Jr. is probably a front runner for Defensive Player of the Year right now.
And his odds were actually affected by this or at least temporarily at certain sports books where they were dropping his odds. And I'm like, the block, because the thing is like, I'm guilty of this too. Like the blocks thing was so eye-popping. And it's not to say that like last night he did get 5 legitimate blocks at home. I don't know if you did see that, but he basically came out and he said afterwards, I beat the allegations because he had 5 blocks at home, which I thought was kind of funny. And
not to me. He's trying to rub it. He's trying to rub it. He's like the killer taunting the hardball detective, who's me. Like, I will expose you, Jaren Jackson.
You're not going to trick me. I take this. Yeah. I take Defensive Player of the Year more seriously than I take the president.
Yeah,
this is a more important honor.
Ever since Marcus Smart won one that everyone says is fraudulent and should have gone to Rudy Gobert, I am here to fix it. Oh, that was the other thing. Well, we'll save that for next episode. But Draymond Green to the Celtics? ?
Oh, please, enough. Get that the fuck out of here. Oh my God, I'll throw up.
But I just think that the Grizzlies are I think that it's weird how many of these are like high profile guys that are getting these huge stat bumps.
Sure.
And I do wonder, I'm not saying that it's necessarily, the teams that have the interest in this, but, it might be the league. There could be a little thumb on the scale stuff from the league being like, wow, highest score. Like, look at these numbers, like Jokic,
the block rate,
triple double.
Yeah, exactly. And the block rate it was amazing to me when I found out what his block rate was. And I was like, this is crazy, dude. Like, I've never seen this much, like this many blocks and this like amount of minutes. He wasn't even playing big minutes. Like, and also in addition to that, blocks, rebounds, those kind of things, steals, they affect advanced metrics, which most people now, when they're voting for their favorite player or a player for an award, they're looking at advanced metrics. Like we know they listen to Zach Lowe, they look at advanced metrics. Like everyone is doing this. So like these things do matter. These things do matter for sure.
And blocks especially. Stats like blocks and steals are the most heavily weighted. So like it's not like points, they can swing the stuff. I love that Will's conspiracy theory within the conspiracy theory that someone said the original guy did it to worsen Jaren's odds on him to bet him for more money. I love that. Let's go.
He's not instead of going every single night on his blocks when he plays at home, which he could fucking make a lot of cash on. Yeah. If you had this information, you could go under on his blocks when he plays on the road and over at any sports book you want to. Yeah. And you would be making cash every single night until they figured it out eventually. But like, I don't know. And to be fair, it is a small sample size. JJJ has not played in a ton of games. He's played 30 games this year? And players do generally play better at home, but the fact that it was double was what was so crazy to me. Like, if it was like one more a game, I would be like, okay, but it was like, what was it, 5 and 5 blocks per game or some shit at home and like 2.5 on the road. It was crazy, but yeah.
It's just, and it'd be one thing if that was like, again, points or rebounds or assists, but like blocks, it's a stat that there are not that many. You've had a good blocks game if you get 3, like, you know what I'm saying? So the 5 is very different.
Yeah.
I did go look at them. I'm telling you, man, there's the NBA doesn't want you to see something. There were some
KOC that I was like, this is weird, but I feel like they that probably happens in every game.
I guess that's true. Yeah. I mean, like, I guess it also could just be a broader problem with like how they're categorizing like some of that like Rob Williams. I go insane because I think Rob Williams gets shortchanged for like tip out rebounds and like, I think Rob gets a piece of the ball a lot and he does not get like, especially when, running out on 3-point shooters and like the ball misses, like it's an air ball and there's just no block. And I'm like, I don't know. It seems like Rob was pretty close, but anyway, the point is, the Grizzlies should be brought in for questioning.
All I'm saying is, I don't think that this is a deep conspiracy, but stay alert, Patriots.
Yeah, stay alert, Patriots. We will be activated when the Grizzlies have a first-round matchup against the Wolves. We will activate Patriots.
Stay alert. Be on your toes.
I think I've said like 3 times that the Kings are going to beat the
Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies in round 1, and we're getting very close to that, like being in play. The 4-5 matchup being Grizzlies. I'm very excited. Excited.
All right. All I'm saying is, don't put any money on that.
I'm putting money on it.
No, don't do that.
I'm putting everything, everything I own.
All right, so let's get into the last thing that we want to talk about, which is Sam Celtics also embroiled in a little bit of controversy recently. Mm-hmm. The Celtics played the Lakers the other night, and let's be honest, the Lakers got hosed at the end of this game. LeBron goes to the rim, gets hacked by Tatum with like 1 second left in the game. I didn't watch the whole game. I just caught the end of it. So obviously I think that the Boston media is behind this one, and there is some leprechaun hand happening here, kind of controlling things from behind the scenes.
Mhm.
But what was your take on it as a Celtics fan who won due to this egregious cheating by the NBA? And
We've gotten away with it again. We've done it. The last 2-minute report it has 3 calls benefiting the Lakers and 1 benefiting the Celtics. But of course, this is I guess
only one happened with 1 second left. That's the only one I care about.
So Patrick Beverley is giving interviews about this today, saying that like rehashing like LeBron, I've never seen you that upset. And man, I almost lost my shit. They are reacting like it was 2002 Lakers Kings, which is like one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Because like there's like bad missed calls like in regular season games. I mean, maybe this is just because like the Lakers needed that win so fucking badly to like save their season. But I cannot believe that the thing that is very funny about this, because this happens all the time, is I've gotten very used to like this will happen all the time. The refs will call at the end of the game, and like the refs association will get on the Twitter after the game and just lie to everyone's face.
Yeah,
like, this was not you can see that he has established like it's the clearest block of all time, and it's like, well, he got him a little bit on the thumb there, like
human beings make mistakes.
Yeah, they never sell out their guys, and then this one was just a blubbering, crying, weeping. Like this was Sam in college, blacked out at 2 a.m. begging my girlfriend to take me back. Like this is what I had more dignity in class than the refs association showed on Twitter today. Like this is.
Please forgive us. We are all human beings who make mistakes. And
please, Mr. LeBron.
I will say this much. So a few things here.
Yeah.
First off, it is funny that they were trying to act like there is this conspiracy against the Lakers, but there has been a good amount of games. Like I've seen like a good amount of Lakers games end on some kind of shitty calls that really they have not been benefiting from. But as they pointed out on the low post, and as I thought, like the league doesn't want the Lakers in the playoffs.
Yeah,
like if the league is interested in ratings, which we all know that they care very much about because they are dodging anytime the NFL are playing big games, they are not going up against them basically. And if that is the case, they care very much about ratings, and they are, especially with these new TV deals coming up and how much the salary cap is dependent on that. I can guarantee you that they want the Lakers in the play-in, the playoffs, whatever they need to get them there.
No, they want the Utah Jazz in the playoffs instead of the Lakers.
Yes, the Kings.
The people don't want LeBron James. Don't want to see LeBron James. They want to see Lauri Markkanen going absolutely bonkers in round 1.
If the All-Star starter votes showed us anything, it's that they want Sabonis and Lauri in round 1.
Yes, exactly.
And not Zion Williamson, LeBron James. The guys that. But like, I have a deeper conspiracy theory here. You want to hear it?
Okay, go ahead.
So my conspiracy theory on this is actually the slop is coming from within the house.
Okay.
The league doesn't want the Lakers to think that they're competitive enough to make the playoffs without a blockbuster trade happening.
Oh, okay.
The next 2 weeks.
If the ship was too right, there would be no big slop. Okay, I like this. Okay.
If there's a Zach LaVine or a Fred VanVleet or someone that's available that they could get for, I don't know, maybe Russell Westbrook's contract and 2 first-round picks, takes the Lakers up a notch, makes them a better playoff team, gets a big name on the Lakers to sell jerseys, gets them ratings in the playoffs, potentially if they make it to the play-in again.
Yeah.
The Lakers could go further in the playoffs if they make a trade like this, maybe get to the 2nd or 3rd round. More ratings for the NBA. And if they keep winning these close games, guess who's not making trades? Rob Pelinka. He's only doing the Rui Hachimura deals. He's not doing the big ones. So stay fucking woke. That's the real conspiracy here. The Lakers keep getting screwed in these games late because they want them to make a huge splash trade before the deadline to get eyeballs on the trade deadline, to get eyeballs on the play-in, to get eyeballs on the playoffs.
I'm picturing the league office, like doors opening and somebody like leaving the ref association and they're doing the Kaiser Soze limp. It gets more regular and they walk better and the camera pans up and it's Ramona Shelburne like peeling a mask off and walking away. Like this is This is
She
what
has
she
a-
wanted.
She has a martini in her hand, and she's about to go on the low post.
She is about to give Jeannie the most girl boss reason ever to fire Rob Pelinka. It's going to be amazing. It is happening.
Let's go, Ramona. Let's make it happen. Get us the slot by any means necessary. That's
yeah. I was like, Momo, I know you want to talk about your Lakers during the trade deadline. This is the only way to make
this
it
is your
happen.
moment. Exactly. Jeannie's feeding the information. The league is in on it. So stay fucking woke. That's my. I honestly like my conspiracy more than any other conspiracy that we've had. So
yeah, they're gonna send Jay Moore to infiltrate the league office. They have ancients everywhere.
Like Jay Moore, you haven't been around since the 90s. What are you doing here?
What are you doing? Literally, none of our younger staffers recognize you. The only people who recognize you are people who are 40.
That's right. Yes. Oh, yeah. We're making tinfoil hats for the trade deadline stream. Let's go.
I've heard that I might be in Joker makeup for 6 hours. Who knows?
Let's fucking
Who knows what might happen.
Tune in. We have 10 days until the NBA trade deadline. Join us here, Slop Fest 2023. God damn, it's 2023. That's weird to say. We're going to be going all day, folks. We're going to have guests. We're going to be going absolutely bananas. Also, if you're not already, follow us on Playback. We'll be doing more streams. I'm going to be doing like 10 streams a month now throughout the rest of the season into the playoffs. So let's fucking get it. Sixers are up 17-4 on the Magic early.
Let's go. And just stop by for Slop Fest, where we might have the 44th president of the United States live on this pod.
Let's go. You never know.
You'll have to tune in to find out.
You never know. You know, he's got a lot more free time because he didn't buy the Phoenix Suns.
He didn't buy the Phoenix Suns, and maybe we'll pick his brain about that. Find out about it. And if that goes well, maybe we'll even ask for the 45th president of the United States to join the pod.
Get both of them in the same room.
More available.
Yeah. The more I think about it, actually.
Well, we're gonna ask him about Barron and if he'll enter the combine because he'll be 7'4". Taco Fall.
Who goes one, Wemby or Barron?
Yeah, Wemby or Barron.
You can start your franchise with one player.
Yeah, this is incredible.
All right. Anything else?
Nope. Let's go Celtics. Most of you Celtics fans have brainworms, but Robert's not going anywhere. He'll be healthy. It'll be fine.
All right. Talk soon.